Oh! All right. Number one in your program, number one in your heart. Ann Davison, welcome back. I finally found your opponent because you are the Seattle City Attorney.
I am.
With the dreaded R next to your name, I might add. The scarlet letter that normally causes the obituary for anybody running in the city of Seattle if you are a Republican. Why do you say you're a Republican? Couldn't you just lie and tell everybody you're a moderate or you're a Democrat or a socialist Democrat? Couldn't you just do something like that?
There's a lot of people who want to make this nonpartisan office partisan.
Let me say something. There is no such thing. I ran for Smash City Council. It's nonpartisan. Of course it's partisan because I knock on people's doors and they're, oh, you're Republican or Democrat. I said it's nonpartisan. They go, yeah, right. What are you?
Well, I'm going to say I've said the same policies no matter what label I put on myself or whatever anybody else wants to call me. I'm talking about what are the policies that are dealing with the societal problems that our city of Seattle is facing. And I've said the same thing no matter what.
Right. I get that, Ann. But you know how quickly people just want to go good, bad, yes, no, right? They just, okay, R, was that for Republican? Okay, no, right? Because you got the giant Donald Trump stuff, all that other stuff hanging over top of you. And when you read anything about you, it's like you are the only Republican elected in Seattle, right? It's pretty amazing. So I know you try to say, listen, that's that, but I just call balls and strikes, and I want to make sure the city of Seattle is a safe place for people to walk down the street, and the people that are breaking the law should be held accountable for the breaking the laws, right?
1,000%.
Okay. So I find your opponent, Erica Evans, who, again, was not that easy to kind of catch stuff on or to see her. So she ends up on Fox 13. I don't win this. Joe, when was this? Like last week or something?
Yeah, I think late last week.
Okay. So she's on there, and the gal there, Hannah Kim, did a pretty good job. She asked her a bunch of questions. Here she is. This is something I think you guys disagree on. So this is Evans is asked about repeat offenders. And mentions the high utilizer program.
What do you do, though, in the city attorney's office when you constantly see the same people?
You're going to have to answer the same question from Ms. Kim, so hold on.
Re-offending the same way, whether that's 6 shoplifting cases or 10 assault cases. What do you do in that situation?
And by the way, before she gives her answer, remember when I asked the mayor this and he said, well, I want to know why they're doing this. You know, the last thing I want to do is put them in jail. I want to know why they're hungry. I want to know what their life story is. I want to know what their kids, what their childhood was like. And then he, went on trying to save. I think once he dug that hole, he realized, oh my God, I got to get out of it. So he added about 23 more seconds. But his main comment was, I want to know if they're hungry. I want to know what their life story is. I don't. Last thing I want to do is put them in jail. So that was the mayor. Now here's her answer.
I think there needs to be accountability. If we're talking about, for example, the high utilizer program that the current city attorney has, what the data showed on that a lot of those folks are actually dealing with substance use or have mental health needs. And so when we're seeing someone do something over and over again, just put them in jail and then they'll be out in a few days and they'll do it again, like you're saying, that doesn't work. And that costs us more money as taxpayers because it's extremely expensive, around $600 a day for someone to be in jail.
Okay.
First of all, it's not that much. So That's the first part. And understanding that the recidivism rates for people, when we have done this focused approach, the high utilizer initiative, focusing on the criteria that we used.
Explain what high utilizer rate means.
So I use that term to encompass what you just described as Bruce Harrell's answer, which is I don't want to call somebody a repeat offender because I don't want to label them as an offender. I don't like labels. Maybe you could get that. That's the message. I don't want to label them that. They have done some criminal activity. We're watching the frequency and how much we're seeing that criminal activity. They're utilizing a lot of our systems, our police resources, prosecutor resources, court resources, probably hospitals resources, social services.
How about frequent offender?
But again, you're saying they're an offender. Hopefully they're not going to be an offender after we finish. That's what I'm hoping, right? So, but they currently are high utilizing our system. So that's why I called it that. I want your people to know.
All right.
So, but when we're looking at it, the criteria was we had at least 12 referrals in the past 5 years and 1 in the last 8 months. That's what we started with. And when we launched it in March of 2022, we had people with 40-something referrals to the city attorney's office. They were skyrocketed, way over above the criteria. Now we barely have people that meet that criteria. We are not seeing those same individuals. We update the data quarterly, and 234 people have come through that initiative part, and 90% reduction in recidivism of those people.
So if she's saying that the people are coming in there and they've got drug and mental health problems and stuff like that the program doesn't serve them, she's saying I'm going to hopefully not too many words in her mouth, Erica Evans, but that there's a downstream problem or an upstream problem where if they're committing crimes, it's because they probably have mental health or drug or alcohol problems. So we need to take care of that first before we, make them accountable for their behavior.
If they're incompetent, that's something different.
Right, I'm not
But we're not in that space, so I want your listeners to understand that's not where we are.
Okay.
We are talking about accountability for the enforcement of our laws. And if somebody's going in, because theft was one of the items that went automatically routed to community court. You committed theft, nobody looked at criminal history. So you could have 40 referrals for theft, but if you commit it 41 time, you're going to community court. That's what I walked into. I withdrew from that because it was increasing recidivism. And what I'm doing now with somebody with that, we did the high utilizer initiative. And now we're not seeing those people. And am I in charge of reentry? No, but I absolutely work with those who are the appropriators who build out that treatment and services, whether it's in custody or post custody, but we need to be making sure we're enforcing our laws and have accountability.
So it was was it 2023, 2024, you got rid of the community court thing?
Correct.
Okay. And you looked at it and you said, this is not working.
It was absolutely increasing recidivism, encouraging people to commit crimes.
Explain how community court is supposed to work.
Well, that was version 3.0, and my opponent wants to bring back 4.0, as we said earlier on your last time I was
Yes.
On your show, which was a great deal of fun. I'm trying to figure out how you get the earbuds, and we have to have the headphones when we come on your show.
Because I'm vain.
But nonetheless, I have the headphones. So I withdrew from that because it was showing that it was increasing recidivism. And that's a dilution of a diversionary alternative, right, which is what that was. And I've doubled the programmatic pieces.
Explain to people, I'm assuming most people listening have not had to go through community court. What is it supposed to do? What does community court mean?
Well, it's a nice sounding word.
Yes.
And it was really just coming in with, you had committed these types of crimes. We don't look at criminal history. You're going to come here before a judge, and we're going to try to connect you with what we think you need. And that's what it was. And by the time that I exited it, they would not put back community service. We asked for that. So the only thing that was a consequence was watching that life skills video. So again, somebody could be committing theft multiple times. They're just going to watch a video.
Uh-huh.
So that tells someone it's worth the risk to go out and steal, right? Because at the county, they don't prosecute theft at the statutory level of $750. It's $2,000 from their filing standards. So you could go out and steal $1,500, and the most you're going to get is a misdemeanor. And my predecessor had put it into automatic routed to community court. You watch a life skills video. That was the revolving door.
What's in the video that's supposed to convince this person who commits crime after crime after crime? Is it Clockwork Orange? Is that what you're watching?
To me, it's irrelevant because if somebody is committing theft that many times, that is not what we should be doing. We need to tell them it is not okay. Our laws are a reflection of our values, and we value that somebody comes into a retail place, and they need to have a transaction in order to get that item. We have lots of places of donation where if somebody's in need, they can go and they can get it without paying for it.
Okay. So then she goes on to say that only a small percentage of repeat offenders should face jail time.
Only really a small percentage of folks that are just like, I'm not going to listen and do whatever you say. And yeah, there needs to be accountability. At the same time, a majority of folks do want to get clean and do want to have housing.
That's not what the issue is. The issue is crime. It's not that they want to get clean and they want to get housing. It's that they want to stop committing crimes. How you stop committing crimes is you make a deterrent, which is, I see if I commit this crime, they're going to be taking time and they're going to make me stay in a jail. Yes. So then you think about it while you're sitting in jail, like, do I want to commit that crime again? Because there has to be a risk-reward ratio. What are the chances of me being caught? What do I get when I steal? What do I get when I hit somebody over the head? And then what happens to me if I get if I get the wallet and I don't get caught, or if I do get caught? But it's not about, I don't think it's about somebody wanting to get clean. I think she jumped right over it.
And if we're going to be good public stewards of our city, we need to be providing the right responses to actually address root causes, which actually saves money at the end of the day and fixes what we want to see in our communities and in our streets. So,
address root causes.
I mean, that is the noble thing to say, because that is easier for somebody who's not in the midst of it. We just want to fix root causes. Okay, but meanwhile, what's happening to the victims?
Yes.
What's happening to a crime victim when this criminal activity is done? We're telling them, suck it up. I'm sorry, that's not my role. My role is to prosecute and enforce the law. And the opposite of compassion is not over-compassion, it's actually indifference. And I put that type of language into the indifference category because it's just an easy thing to say. There are social workers to do that. This is not the Office of Social Work. This is a prosecutor's office where we enforce the laws. And it's a comfortable thing to say that. What I'm saying, we don't want everybody saying what I'm saying because it's not everybody's role, but it is the role that I serve right now, and it's the one I'm going to seek for my second term because that has to function so the rest of society can do what they need to do. It might be social work. It might be teaching in a class. It might be being a bus driver, but we want them to do their things because I'm taking care of public safety part.
I'm going to play last answer, part of the answer.
What I'm hearing is that you don't believe that even with repeat offenders that jail is really the answer all the time.
I didn't say that. I think that if someone is repeating over and over again and it's like something like they're stealing food, maybe there's another underlying issue that they need help with. I think that...
But food is one thing. What about assaults and things that are actually happening? What about drug crimes and real crimes that are happening on the streets?
You also mentioned assaults. That's not something that should be in community court. If someone's committing a violent assault, I think they need to be in the mainstream docket, not in a community court model.
Did violent criminals go into community court?
Property destruction did. So I'm going to say that that's an enormous amount of our economic vitality is if we have businesses that endure property destruction and they want to think that because a person wasn't hurt that there's not a loss of value. There's a loss of societal norms. And so I think that's a significant piece. And what you heard her say, she did skirt around the drug activity, right? Because she won't enforce the stay-out of drug area law, which she has openly said she will not enforce. And how are we going to disrupt the open-air drug markets? I don't hear any solution she proposed other than let's focus on treatment and services. Well, again, this is not the Office of Social Work. This is where we prosecute misdemeanor and gross misdemeanor crime throughout the city of Seattle.
So would there be a good place for Miss Evans in the social department somewhere with this sort of attitude?
Well, we are actively wanting to build out misdemeanor reentry. It absolutely needs to be there. That's not within my purview. We would be the handoff of what's happening during custody. We want to see that happening. And what are you going to do after custody? Because we do need to have, as a society, that reentry plan. But that is not the role of the city attorney.
And then the last is you get blamed. You ready for this? For delaying prosecution of DUIs and domestic violence cases.
The more serious cases that office deals with are domestic violence cases and DUIs. And what we have seen with the data is, unfortunately, those cases under the current Republican incumbent is taking longer to file and charge. And that's a problem because that directly impacts public safety.
Aha! Come on, Ann Davison. File, charge.
I mean, I've heard her say that she's the one with the experience coming in, and I'm just going to say my predecessor was a bankruptcy attorney before he was city attorney. I'm coming in with the vision. I'm coming in with the data to back it up, which is why she even knows what the data that she's claiming is mine, but she's not claiming my data. So for DUIs, I want your listeners to understand this is a large system, complex problem at the state level. The state toxicology lab is the only lab under state law that can test blood results for DUIs.
Yeah.
And they have a 571 delay. So right now I can only prosecute DUIs from blood results that are needed from 2023. There is another way to prosecute. We are building that out with police, but that's not most of the cases. Over half my cases are drugs. It's not alcohol. So we do most of the time need the blood results.
I was surprised. Wasn't the story Richard Sherman, I think it took 2 years or something to get the DUI?
It's close to the statute of limitations. Right now it's 571-day delay before we will get that result. I proposed a legislative fix last session, and I will continue to pursue that this next session, which is to change our state law and to allow us to use private labs. Over half the states do that, including Oregon, so that we can reduce that time when we do need the blood results to then get that conviction so we can get impaired drivers off the road, because it is going in the wrong direction for our state. We've had over 90% increase of fatalities from impaired drivers over the past decade. And you combine that with our lax drug enforcement that we had under my predecessor, which my opponent directly supports and worked there, we will go back to increasing our roadway fatalities from drug-impaired drivers. I'm trying to take it the opposite way.
Yeah, Ann Davison, it seems pretty clear to me. If you're sitting there with your ballot in the kitchen table, I don't know Erica Evans, but it seems like she wants to go in a direction I think we've tried before, from 2020 to 21, 22, all in there. And this idea, well, we need to have a better understanding, and it's really not their fault. The system has failed them. The system has failed them. The problem in this, you say that the system has failed. Now you're searching around trying to find something as opposed to the direct action that you took to break the law, and someone needs to hold you accountable. I think Miss Evans' basic idea is, let's treat this the way we were doing prior to you getting in there.
It's just system avoidance, right, for criminal defendants. And again, what we need to know is what is happening for those people. It's important to know. But again, informing those actors where that's the space. But my space is to enforce the law. When I get referrals from police, when I have evidence I can prosecute, and that's the right response. I've double diversion for early criminal activity. It's cheaper than the community court, and it's actually showing great response and lower recidivism. But it's not appropriate for everybody. So I've built out the continuum to have at my discretion to be able to mainstream prosecute and also have diversion.
If you don't win, what happens to the city of Seattle?
We do go back to a sense of lawlessness because with her not enforcing the soap and soda laws, where we are starting to get a better handle in those neighborhoods that have been just so entrenched with criminal activity from open-air drug markets and prostitution and trafficking of predominantly women and girls, those will increase. My proposed legislation has all been passed by this council. It's all been public safety focused. I've been laser focused on public safety in the city of Seattle and improving that and showing my work with my data. And I am so committed to this city. I've lived here 30 years, raising my son and daughter here. They can tell a difference since I've been in office. When my kids say, wow, Mom, you had to get elected to make this different, that's my level of commitment to the city.
So when you ground your kids or take away their iPhones and stuff, I assume you're pretty tough on them.
Well, consistency is the main part, right?
Oh, yeah, I know.
It's consistency. If we as a city become inconsistent in the enforcement of our laws, which we will if my opponent were to be city attorney, instead of me in a second term where we would have 8 years of the consistent approach I brought, we will have a different Seattle that we knew under my predecessor of 12 years. I'm trying to dig us out from that.
Wow, sounds like a campaign speech there. Ann Davison, thanks for coming in, spend some time with us.
Do we get to do traffic again?
Yes, throw to Nate.
Nate, you're on.